course, this is Tackling Disaster Recovery with Zerto and HPE. This is part of a series that's been brought to you by WEI and HPE and Intel. We appreciate their partnerships. Whole overall concept is this idea of trying to win with a flexible and secure cloud experience. And today we're going to talk a little bit more on that secure front in terms of kind of disaster recovery and all things that Zerto does out there. Zerto is a Hewlett-Packard Enterprise company to really help people with their security of their data, the resiliency that we need in our data these days. James Hilliard here as the host and MC and moderator. Glad to be here. Let me tell you what we're going to do. First 30 minutes or so is really our tech talk. We'll be kicking things off in just a moment with Kyle McCarthy. He is a client executive at WEI. Just talking a little bit at a high level of what WEI does for their customers out there and the types of customers they do work with. They are an HPE Platinum partner. And so again, we'll go about a little background on WEI and how they support customers really across all industries. Then we will hear from Anthony Dutra. He is a technical marketing engineer for Zerto, and glad to have him on board. Again, drilling deeper into disaster recovery protection as a service. I'm sure that's going to come up in part of the conversation. Give you insights into how some of these new modern HPE ProLiant Gen11 servers that are powered by the Intel Xeon processor family out there really help mitigate downtime and data loss. We all know that right, data is the gold of this century, and so we want to make sure that we're protecting that at all costs. So that'll be the conversation, about 20 minutes or so with Anthony, and then we do have our special featured guests who will be joining us. Matthew Slater from the New England Patriots. He is special teams captain over there, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 10 times out to the Pro Bowl. So really looking forward to talk with him and get some insights. We'll tie in, obviously, some business related content, and then we'll get into some good football talk as well. During that time, when Matthew comes on, we will re-engage the Zoom platform so that all of you can go ahead and get your video feeds on. It's always fun to have you on there and have Matthew and other guests that we have be able to see you out there in the audience. So again, we'll do that in about a half hour to the platform. Also, I want to encourage you a couple ways that you can interact. It's not just me talking to Matthew. I'd love for you to talk to Matthew. So in the Zoom platform, it'll be great for you to do the raise your hand function. You can also use the chat if you want to chat in a question. Happy to ask it for you, but I'd prefer to see your faces on camera, have you raise your hand. I'll unmute you or ask you to unmute, and then you can go ahead and ask those questions of Matthew during that Q&A time. And again, we'll have about 45 minutes with Matthew. We do have some assigned giveaway from Matthew that we'll pull randomly from all of you that have joined us here today. So some memorabilia going out to someone on this call, and also 2 tickets. Your names will be in a drawing for 2 tickets to any remaining Patriots game after our final event. I think that's in a week or so. We're doing 4 in this series. So after those are complete, we will pick 1 lucky winner, and then we'll get 2 tickets to one of the remaining games for the Patriots this year. So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing. A lot of good stuff to get to here. First, though, I want to get into the tech talk. And again, that's the first 30 minutes or so. And with that, Kyle's going to share his screen, and I'm going to turn things over to him for a couple of minutes, again, for a little background on WEI, of course, sponsor for this event. So with that, Kyle, I will go ahead and let you know when I see your screen up there, so you can share that at any time. And looks like it's starting there. There's our title screen. There's Matthew. That's who we'll be seeing in a little bit. And with that, Kyle, I'll put it in your hands.
Okay, awesome. So thanks, James. My name's Kyle McCarthy. I'm a client executive here at WorldCom Exchange Incorporated. So pumped to get Matthew Slater on the call. I'm a little bummed because kicking myself. My only Patriots jersey is actually Matthew Slater. I think he's just a great player on and off the field. So excited to have him join us later today, and I won't take up too much of your time and delay him. So, but whether you're familiar with WEI or not, hopefully you'll learn something today. And, we've been around for over 30 years now, founded in 1989 by Belisario Rosas. He's from Peru, and he's still full owner of the company with his wife, Leslie. So we've grown since then quite a bit. We're up to almost 200 employees now, I think. And out of that, over 80 certified engineers. So this is really where we distinguish ourselves from other resellers. As I mentioned, we're debt free, we're privately owned. this allows us to be flexible both from a financial perspective and a technology perspective, and really put our customers first. So, still got that small business feel. We've done almost $400 million annually lately, and it's notable that almost a quarter of that is shipped globally. So we can certainly scale up and scale out to across the world if needed for some of our larger global customers. You can see some of them down there. These really, they run the gamut in regard to industry. So our engineers have definitely seen it all when it comes to use cases in that regard. But also great, to be nominated for, supplier awards, and both from customers and from, industry awards. And of course, in that expertise in customer success, our customer relationships tend to last very long, which is great. And it's typically because our engineers, they have all those certifications and they become really intimate with our customers' environments. So, as most resellers, from what I understand, we started out building servers for customers and really in that data center practice. Since then, we've expanded to several different areas. Just recently, we've really built out our cybersecurity practice. Also really strong with experts in the cloud, AWS, Azure. And one thing I want to focus on is obviously, our backup and DR capabilities. But as you can see here, it really runs the gamut. So our networking and security practice, that's really strong. It's been around for over 12 years now, I think. So, certifications and engineering and OEM expertise in all of these areas. So whether it be, DevOps or performance and cost analytics when it comes to the cloud and public cloud and that cost optimization. So we can help with a lot of that. And I'll, point out, down below there as the project management and staff augmentation across all of these core focus areas. So obviously, our project management team can help out with, rolling out large projects. And also we know a lot of people, in the IT industry. So if you're ever looking for, to staff up for 3 months or 6 months, or even permanently for day 2 operations, once you, take on a new project, or just looking for some help, we can help out with that with our staff augmentation team as well. So here's a little bit about, how we do go above and beyond as a value-added reseller. Like to say we put the V in VAR in this way. So starts off from the pre-sales where, we really want our customers to get some meaningful experience with that technology before they invest in it. We can do this through our demo lab. We can configure and build multi-OEM demo capabilities in our lab. So in that lab, there's over $5 million worth of gear there. So, you could do that remotely, or you could actually come to our HQ and play around with different technologies. So, and then, if you decide to choose on one, you can roll into a proof of concept. And as I mentioned, multi-OEM infrastructure to make sure everything operates smoothly between each other. And then also our integration services. So I'll get into that a little bit more, but we're totally able to rack and stack gear, integrate it on site. When it comes to stuff like end user devices, we can install images at our headquarters and ship it out to to the end user ready to go. And post-sale support as well. So obviously we're not gonna fall off the face of the earth for you once you do go through with something. We'll be your first line of defense and pick up the phone, make that first call. And we're always happy to stand by our services in that regard. And then through this entire project, of course, there's a lot of knowledge transfer from our team to yours. So that's very valuable as well. So this has been, more relevant than ever with COVID. I know lead times are obviously getting a little bit better, but as I mentioned, we do have over 100,000 square feet of space up here in Salem. So we actually just invested in the building across from the parking lot, a bunch of customer inventory in this warehouse. So, obviously there's situations where you might invest in a large project and some gear comes in right away, and then you're waiting on, little things like transceivers or SFPs, and you don't have the space to keep all of that gear. So, certainly providing a lot of values to our customers there by hosting some of their inventory and shipping it out just in time when they need it. We can also rack and stack full data centers and, integrate those switches and whatever you need and ship them right to any location that you need. So, and as I mentioned, at our facilities, we have that integration capabilities. So everything that gets brought into WEI will be tested for zero, dead on arrival products. make sure when it gets to the end user or the end location that it's ready to go. So obviously we can help out with firmware updates. So in the case where you're rolling out a switch or a server and all at different times, for example, we'll make sure that firmware is up to date on all of them. So certainly we can be flexible here as well. And as I mentioned, this stuff can ship globally. So I'll just touch on that real quick, that we've landed gear in over 120 countries, I think, at this point. So, a great way to see how we do it is to come take a tour at WEI. So you can see how the logistics work in the background and really see how we're able to scale out for these large customers. But so with that, of course, today, we want to focus on a great partner of ours, Hewlett Packard, and with their partnership and acquisition of Zerto, it's really gained a lot of momentum. So if I had to hover on, one thought here, it's that note at the top where out of 20,000 HPE North America partners, we rank number 2 in engineering certification. So you can see on the right there, just a few of the guys we constantly are adding to this team. And, as it says there's another dozen or so that are, phenomenal at HPE and everything that they offer. But so yeah, with that, I'll pass it on to Anthony, and you can talk a little bit about our partnership with HPE and of course Zerto. So
yeah, well, thank you so much, Kyle. I love that last slide in particular, because you do talk a lot about the GreenLake platform. What I'm talking about today will be about how Zerto, now being part of the HPE family, is part of the GreenLake platform itself, and why it's really great to work with partners such as yourself in order to help people sort of onboarding or really getting sort of assessed with a disaster recovery strategy itself. And what we introduced here with HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery is a much more sort of software-defined approach and sort of easy onboarding to DR that you can pretty much unlock in a fast, flexible way. So hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Dutra. I'm a technical marketing engineer with Zerto, a Hewlett Packard enterprise company. And today I'll be going through just that with this with the HPE GreenLake for DR platform itself. So aside from the absolutely amazing Patriots player that will be on later today, I'm sure a lot of you are here because you are, to some degree, are afraid about losing or experiencing downtime within the data center today. As you would obviously know, that would be costly to any business if any application within their IT infrastructure went down. And there's an enormous rise in ransomware sort of taking over many of our organizations. I am going out to Vegas later this year, and I'm very afraid to be staying down there because of many most recent attacks, as I'm sure you guys have heard, tend to occur to even the largest organizations who you would think would be the most secure out there. But as we can see, ransomware is on the rise, going to cost billions by 2031. Disruption and data loss is a no-no. Really doesn't really matter what size your business is. You can see there a staggering $250K an hour it can cost for just being down. And then add in levels of complexity with trying to digitally transform to the cloud, trying to adopt containerized applications. We're going to see an enormous spend in IT services in the future because a lot of this stuff is complicated and will require us to, maybe possibly have some downtime that we need to recover from. And it's not going to be easy, overall in terms of a future outlook for your IT operations, right? You need software that is going to keep you online and operating, and it's much easier if it is pretty much cloud-based. So that's exactly what we're offering with HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery. On the back end, it is very much the Zerto technology that I'm sure a lot of individuals here may already know and use. But now we're delivering it straight through the GreenLake DSCC console, and we're making it a lot easier for you to recover from a disruption, as well as manage multiple sites from that disruption in again, just that sort of one single cloud interface overall. It's that same automated and orchestrated DR. I'll kind of dive into what exactly that means in a little bit later in this presentation, but all of the great stuff that makes sort of Zerto is now inside of this DR solution in the cloud, and you are able to take advantage of it in a much more flexible consumption model overall. So a quick overview of some terminology that you'll hear in this, and again, why it's great to have WEI here. If you are looking for IT assessments, well, okay, what is our actual recovery point objectives or recovery time objectives that our business can suffer? There's a lot of good IT assessments that they have that will help you determine that uptime or downtime and what that cost might actually be to your business. So you can see there, RPO is how much what's the maximum of data loss that we can afford? And the RTO is, hey, how fast are we getting back online after that problem did happen? And ideally, what you want is a data protection platform like HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery to give you that full CDP or continuous data protection, having that great balance between, hey, we're going to lose as minimal or as really as less data as possible, and we're going to get back online as close to zero as we humanly can. And what makes this possible is what we call a journal technology, and I'll kind of dive into that in the next slides here. So let's talk about sort of the key differences, what makes CDP very, very special. The first thing is the near synchronous replication. We'll go into that journal that I alluded to in the last slide, and then how we basically make everything that you're looking to protect very application centric. So when you do come back online, you know that everything is back online in a state that is operationally efficient and is ready to go. You're not having to do anything on the back end yourself to get it going. Anything that we'll talk about from the recoverability that this software provides is automated and orchestrated for you, and you can even do some non-disruptive testing. So it's very, very hands-off in terms of DR software and how you use it and how you sort of scale into learning it. And of course, this is all delivered from the HPE GreenLake cloud. So it's going to be very easy to operate. You're going to have some monitor reporting built in there. And again, WEI offers a lot of GreenLake services. So they would understand if you are looking to sort of expand into the HPE GreenLake platform, maybe with compute ops management, or maybe the private business edition. Well, how does this DR play into it as well? So it's really nice to sort of have that team as well when you're going through sort of looking at these technologies, to have that in the back of your mind also. So let's talk about the near synchronous replication. Again, if you know anything about Zerto, this is what really makes us special, and why we have been put as the DR tool for GreenLake. We operate at the software layer, so you don't have to buy any extra hardware aside from the things that you're replicating to and from. And we don't require any scheduling, no snapshots. We're not making you install any agents on each virtual machine that you have. We let you sort of do this very granular near synchronous replication to multiple different sites with a very easy approach. And what makes us special and different is that journal. So not only when you replicate to a second site can you roll back, but you can roll back from a very, very granular point in time, mere seconds, before something actually happened. And I don't know if I'm dating myself here, but like a VHS, right? You hit the rewind button, a DVR, any way you kind of want to think about it. When you fail over with Zerto, or you decide to migrate or replicate with Zerto, you choose a very specific point in time to recover to, and it's very granular for you to recover back with as well. So it's super kind of cool to use. And conceptually, I mean, I wish I had a journal to roll back to in my own life, but in this case, it's all in the virtual world. And then, as sort of many nerdy people know, an application isn't necessarily made up of one giant virtual machine running on a ProLiant server somewhere, right? It's made up of multiple virtual machines that run on ProLiant servers somewhere. So what Zerto does is basically group those virtual instances together when we're protecting it. which allows them all to come up at that exact same point in time together. So, your data is not coming back online. Your database is coming back online before the front end or anything isn't out of whack, right? All of this is consistent and allows you to replicate and recover very seamlessly and quickly. And all this is automated and orchestrated for you. So all you're really doing is going into the GreenLake console, telling which virtual machines you want it to protect by setting up what's called a protection group. And then everything from there is going to happen behind the scenes. And it's a very hands-off and easy approach to managing sort of disaster recovery. And when it comes to actually having to do a failover, if you want to test failovers, it's just as simple to manage all through the GUI interface itself. Automation is, again, built right into this solution. So when you do install it into your environment, we're detecting all of the virtual machines, all that critical infrastructure virtually that needs to be protected. We're automating the failover and testing failover process. We're automating the recovery of the applications when, again, that time does come. And if you are very, very nerdy and super technical and you want to expand it, with maybe some code of your own, we have APIs available for you to tap into and maybe automate some processes more that might fit into your business. Again, WEI, good partners there to help with sort of projects like that and kind of expand your disaster recovery runbook, with the solution. Talking about runbooks itself, right? The non-destructive testing of HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery, which is basically Zerto. In a nutshell, when you do run a failover test, we're not interrupting production within that process. So all of your virtual instances are still very much running and doing their own thing. We just kind of basically create that copy of it on the back end. You spin it up, see how it looks in the sort of testing environment, and then say, yeah, it looks good, push a button, and it all goes down for you. So literally what this slide is saying is exactly that. Everything is automated, orchestrated, and you aren't going to have to worry about sort of taking time out of your application's busy day in order to test a disaster recovery operation for it. So very, very simple and easy to use. Zerto is HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery obviously is extensible, so you can replicate and do all of this granular level of failing over and moving not only between on-premise infrastructures, but also to some select public cloud providers in the future. And again, if you're looking for an easy deployment operations, everything is right through the DSCC console, right alongside all of your other services that you would be using. If you are sort of managing Intel servers today, you want to use compute ops management, right? That's also within the DSCC console. You can easily interoperate between your DR as well as your normal production environment, all again through this single pane of glass. For those nerds out there, this is kind of what a architecture view looks like. Your host, ideally, again, HPE ProLiant, would be running VMware virtualization technology. And then when you download HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery, we have these little workers on each ESXi host that are doing that very near synchronous replication between sites. So it's a very, very small footprint that we are putting onto the environments that you're replicating in between, and it's extremely easy to use because, again, you're literally going to a cloud console, downloading something, and managing everything from your web GUI overall. Real-time monitoring reporting. Obviously, we're going to look into what you're protecting, and then we have on top of that what we call a resilience score to show how effective what you are protecting is actually doing. So, are there any issues, or has a protections group been down for a certain amount of time? well, that's going to impact maybe the health score of your protection group levels. We kind of give you that information and insights built, again, right into the dashboard. So as you kind of look at your DR strategy in unison with everything else that you're managing through the GreenLake console, you're able to see how resilient you actually are. And it's just a great report back to higher ups, making sure the health of your IT environment is it's a digestible way to develop insights, right? Something, again, that I wish we would have in our personal lives. So reduce the high cost of downtime with CDP. Again, if you're looking for a nice, very good IT assessment, definitely reach out to partners to do so. Look at sort of backup technologies, storage replication technologies, and then compare it to how sort of operationally efficient HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery is. You can see that it can drastically minimize the impact of your downtime from a cost perspective compared to many other things out there. But again, it's very important to sort of do that assessment first, and make sure that you're calculating the dollar value of what that downtime is, because it can be quite significant. And obviously with HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery, that rewind and recover functionality in minutes with a CDP solution makes it top tier. All right, so basically this will wrap up everything that I pretty much hopped on for the last few minutes there. It's HPE GreenLake for disaster recovery. If you're looking for a solution to provide you that fast, flexible recovery option from any sort of disruption, whether it's ransomware or just downtime from physical server disruption, you do have this tool available for you. Again, it's in the cloud console and very easy to use. It's almost kind of like a do-it-yourself DRaaS, where you're logging into GreenLake itself, pulling down a little image of what you would need for the replication technology, deploying it, and you're kind of off and running with just a few simple clicks. And then again, you're managing this alongside all of your other IT infrastructure that is living within GreenLake itself. And all of this is automated and orchestrated for you. I cannot stress enough how great it is to not have to do much of the manual processes that this does already for you. So having that in a bundled sort of software service is very easy to adopt, easy to scale, and lets you easily manage from end to end your full disaster recovery operations. So I thank everybody for their time, and I think we are kicking it back to you, James.
You are, Anthony. I got a couple stats for you and one question. Here are the stats, since we're talking some football today. Nerds, said with love, mentioned 3 times by you, and 1 VHS reference. And I think that's the first time in about 10 years I've had someone reference VHS and rewinding and all that. Some folks on the call might not even know.
I know.
Those are the stats. Here's the question. And then we'll be joined by Matthew Slater. He's joined us online here, so we'll get over to that conversation here in just a moment. But in terms of you said early on, disaster recovery strategy, having a strategy, that is key, right? Technology is great. We need the technology, but the strategy is important. When you have been out there talking to teams, what are the best teams doing in terms of that strategy? Is it everybody all in on the same strategy? Is it owned just by 1 or 2 people and they're the ones that are in charge and everyone else just follows along? What have you seen on the kind of people side of a disaster recovery strategy, the ones that have implemented it the best?
Yeah, I think the ones that implemented it the best definitely have more policies in place. Again, the more people that probably are on the team that are part of it, it definitely helps depending on their experience. But I think the best advice that I could give, if you are looking for a very good disaster recovery strategy, or really any sort of data protection strategy, it's about having layers of defense that makes part of it. So it's not only having DR, but to your point, also maybe having some sort of threat assessment that's part of that solution. It's having these multiple layers of protection that's very much important. And it's those organizations that can do that well and make sure there's synergy between each of those players that are protecting them really allows for probably the most successful that I've seen.
All right. Well, I appreciate that insight. Anthony's going to hang on. I'm sure we'll hear from him and Kyle towards the end of our event. Now, though, my pleasure to bring on board and roll things over to New England's Patriots special teams captain, Matthew Slater, joining us for our conversation. I see he is online. I'm going to shoot him the old ask to unmute through Zoom. There he is. Matthew, thank you for joining us today.
James, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You just heard Anthony talk a little bit about layers of defense, and that's really what football is all about, is defending your house, defending that ball, defending your other players out there. Just talk about, that's where I want to start with you, is the idea of everyone having the same winning strategy. That is something that the Patriots are known for, and is a good focus for the organization. Can you talk about where things stand for you now as one of the more veteran players on the Patriots, and how you continue to try and drive that into the younger players that you're now coming on board and mentoring?
Absolutely. That's a great point. And whether you're talking about football or business, everyone having the same winning strategy and being on the same page is so vital if you want to have success. I know for us, one of the things that we preach is putting the team first. And I think when you talk about having success as an organization, you have to have members of the team that are bought into that concept. You have to first and foremost understand that it's not always about me. It's not about what I want. It's not about my individual success. I want to see the big team, the big picture be successful. And that's going to require some sacrifice. That's going to require me to put my ego aside. But I think for so long here in New England, that's been one of the first things that all of us had to understand when we came into the building was, hey, it's no longer about you as an individual. It's about the team and the team's success.
And often individual success can come from the team success. But if you put that individual success first, we haven't seen a lot of teams across business and or sport really succeed when it is just about the individuals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we tell young guys. Young guys, when they come into the NFL, they're worried about a lot of different things. And some of that revolves around, contract situations or personal accolades. And a good friend of mine, Devin McCourty, used to always say, if we win and we're successful as a team, all of that other stuff will take care of itself. Everyone will end up happy at the end of the day. But if we don't win, kind of what we're experiencing now, then the individual stuff will really come apart and everything starts to come apart. So, team success trumps everything, especially in our business. And that in turn, like you said, leads to individual recognition and success.
I don't want to stay too long on this point, but the season is not going as you and everyone is hoping right now. So how do you, as a veteran player, keep your calm about you and share that with others that might be losing for one of the first times in their career? This obviously is a little unknown territory to you as well because of all the successes you've had. So how do you keep that in perspective and keep persevering and look at next week as, next week might be that week. We're going to make it the week. Mm-hmm. We're going to get back on track. How do you express that to your teammates?
I'm so glad you asked that. Because I know for me as a leader on this team, as someone who's been a captain for 13 years for this organization, I've had the experience, I've had the good fortune of experiencing a great deal of success. And I really haven't had to navigate much adversity, especially the way I have this past year. So controlling my emotions has been a big theme this season. Obviously, we're all very frustrated that we're not getting the outcome that we would like. But I think as a leader, as an elder statesman, it's important for me to control my emotions, to step back away from the situation from time to time, and then readjust my perspective. I think it's easy to get your perspective out of focus in times like this. And I think it's my job to readjust my perspective and then relay that to some of the younger players or guys who haven't had as much experience in this league. It's so paramount that we keep things in proper perspective, because that kind of gives us direction in terms of how we should operate. So for us now, our perspective is, hey, we need to focus on our fundamentals. We need to focus on our process. We need to focus on all the things that equate to winning, and we just need to do them a little bit better. And instead of worrying about what's going wrong, now let's just focus on the things that we can control, and hopefully in the long run, the outcome will start to change.
Well, we got a lot of Patriots fans on board here. WEI, our sponsor company based up in New England. I know they're all pulling for you and the team, and looking forward to the remainder of the season. I want to take a brief pause here and remind everyone that I've got a bunch of questions for Matthew here, but we also want to give you the opportunity to ask Matthew some questions. So at this point, I do believe our team on the back end has modified the Zoom platform. So I believe you can get your video camera feeds rolling now if you would like to. It's always fun for folks like myself and Matthew to see who's out there in our audience. And then there is the function within Zoom to raise your hand. There's an electronic function. I think it's under the three dots there. So you could go ahead and raise your hand. And then what that'll do is I'll see that on the tool. Then I can go ahead and call you by name, ask you to unmute, and we can get you on for some questions. If you don't want to do it that way, you can also go into the meeting chat and either to James Hilliard, send me a chat in there, or you can send it to the whole group and I can read those out as well. So those are a couple things we can do with the remaining time here. Let's talk a little bit of tech on the sidelines. And there was something that Anthony was showing earlier about the technology we were discussing in terms of disaster recovery. Real-time monitoring, real-time feedback. And you all have the ability now with those tablets on the sidelines to see things in real time. First off, what type of adjustment was that like for you when that first made it onto the sidelines? And are you a big user? Do you, after a special teams play, is that one of the first things you go back and now check those tablets and see what went on, get some real-time insight so you can plan for the next sequence?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so amazing. When my career started in 2008, now to 2023, just the changes in terms of technology, in terms of the game in general, so much has changed. And this is one of those changes that I really love. I love to be able to get real-time feedback on what happened on the field so we can discuss it, make necessary adjustments, and move forward. We use the Microsoft Surface tablets, which are fantastic, to just be able to say, instead of, I thought this happened or it looked like this, we can now have concrete evidence. Hey, no, this is what happened. This is how we need to play it. This is how we need to adjust. We used to use the pictures. They would print out the pictures and you're sitting there and you've got paper everywhere and you're trying to sift through where you are on the picture. That was very challenging, trust me, compared to this. So it's great to have the technological advancements that we have. Another thing that I love is during practice, we have actual video. So we can have a period in practice and maybe we didn't like a look or something like that. We can actually go and watch the video in real time before we even go into the meeting room and make the adjustments out there on the practice field. So I think that makes the experience for players 100 times better than what it was. And I think these technological advancements are really making the game better.
I'm going to try and make a business tie here to a little bit of what we're talking about and the football world, but specifically to your role, special teams. There can be games where you're not doing a whole lot because the flow of the game, whether it's interceptions or things like that. So you might not have a chance to get out there. So for you, my belief, and correct me because you're the one playing, but sometimes it can be, wait. Now I got to go out there and do it. And now I got to do it again. Now I got to do it. Then maybe wait. Disaster recovery, dealing with our businesses, securing our data. Kind of the same thing. Yes, we're always vigilant. We want to make sure that we've got the right things in place to secure our organization, but we don't necessarily always feel we're under attack. And some of these then technical folks are on with us. Then all of a sudden they are under attack and they have to perform. So how do you go from wait, and then be there to perform and deal with that very unstructured, unscheduled playtime that someone, especially on special teams, might face?
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I would take that one step further and say, not just in business, but life. That's how life plays out. Sometimes we go through seasons of life where things are going fine and we're kind of on autopilot. And then all of a sudden you might have a moment of crisis or you're called into action and you need to, be ready to go. So I would say for me, that all comes back to your approach and your preparation. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the circumstances are, you have to be consistent in your approach, consistent in your character, consistent in just how you go about doing things. If you do that, when your number is called, whether football, business, life, you'll be ready to go. The issues start to arise when you become inconsistent or complacent. Hey, today's not really our day. You start to zone out a little bit. Hey, we haven't been able to really have an impact on the game. You start to feel sorry for yourself a little bit. Those human tendencies start to creep in. So I think you fight that and combat that with your preparation, your mindset, and just being really, really faithful to your process. If we have a process and we know that process is tried and true, and we're faithful to that process, then when our number is called, whether in the game of football, the game of business, or the game of life, we'll be ready to go.
I appreciate that and your expansion there. Let's get some football related questions in here, a little more focus here. Rick is on board with us. He chatted in. What's your thoughts on, do you have a preference on turf or grass? And on the turf front, do you feel that it is injury making for more players than grass out there? What are your thoughts? Grass, turf?
That is a tremendous question. And without a shadow of a doubt, every NFL player will tell you that we want to play on grass. The issue that we've had is getting a hold of the data, right? There's much debate over what does the data actually say. And it's our belief as players that you're 16% more likely to sustain lower body injuries on turf. And then there are further statistics that will tell you that the significance and time missed from those injuries is higher when you're on turf. And just anecdotally, you ask guys how they feel after playing on turf, and they'll tell you terrible. So for me, I want us to be like FIFA, put grass in all the stadiums. And if there's not grass, we won't play. But, I know we have some steps to make to get to that point, but absolutely we want to be playing on grass.
All right. With that, and let's follow it up with where has been your favorite field to play on? And I'm going to let you even expand this, going back to your youngest days to where you are right now.
Ooh.
Favorite one or two fields that you've ever played on?
Wow. That is a tough one. But since you expanded it, I would say Notre Dame in South Bend. As a junior in college, when I was at UCLA, we went and got a chance to play out in Notre Dame, and it was amazing. Just all the rich history there, the tradition, touchdown Jesus, all the things that are part of that experience. It's just something I'll never forget. And I've played in Super Bowls and I've played in a lot of big games, but going and playing in South Bend was pretty special.
Your boy David Andrews said he loves SoFi, loves Allegiant, loves all the new, but give him a Green Bay any day.
I second that. I think David and I are similar in that we have an appreciation for history, an appreciation for some of these franchises that really got the league to where it is today. And certainly you talk about Curly Lambeau or George Halas with the Bears. Those fields, those stadiums, there's just an aura about them that's unmatched. So
I mentioned to you, you've got a lot of Patriot fans on here, our partner, our sponsor here, WEI up in New England there. But this is just you and me, two California kids now talking. Long Beach, SoCal. I'm a Bay Area guy. You did everything in LA, and then you got drafted to New England. How long did it take you to adjust to the winters?
Well, you say that as if I've already adjusted. 16 years later, I don't know that I have. That California blood is still in me, that Southern California blood. But, it was certainly a process, especially I remember playing in my first snow game, and there was a voice inside of me that kept saying, they're going to cancel the game. Surely they're going to cancel the game. We can't play out in this. But no, they don't cancel games in New England. So that was one of the toughest parts of the adjustment and moving here was getting used to the weather, going from a place where it's 70 degrees year round to going to a place where it's you get sub-zero temperatures. But I've grown to appreciate it, and like my wife always says, that's why they make warm clothes. So put them on and get out there and get it done.
I need to apologize because I just did you dirty because now we got all these New Englanders making fun of you and me, these like lightweight West Coasters that can't handle a little bit of cold, right? um, Again, folks, if you have questions for Matthew in the chat, you can type them on in. If you want to get on camera and raise your hand, I'll look for that in the queue and be able to move you in here as well. Let's talk a little bit about, let's do this. Kyle raised his hand. And so before I get to something, Kyle, why don't I go ahead? I'll hit you that ask unmute. And so you can unmute there. And as soon as I see there you go. You're unmuted. What's your question for Matthew?
Hey, Matt, thanks for joining. I actually I grew up like 15 minutes from the stadium myself, and I have your jersey, but I'm kicking myself that I'm not wearing it today. But big fan. Thanks for joining. And I like to ask players, as a special teams veteran, you played against so many guys that were phenomenal kick returners or punt returners. Is there anyone that you just hated lining up against that you're nervous and, some of the best returners that you might have seen that you didn't like to play against?
Great question. And Kyle, I appreciate the support. There are not a lot of people out there with Slater jerseys, so I certainly appreciate that. I think there's one guy that comes to mind, and if you ask many of us, it's going to be the same guy as Devin Hester. And, there's a reason that he had the success that he had in this league. I can start with his vision, his balance, his size, his speed. There's so many things that he did at an elite level that you knew every time you kicked him the ball, there was a real possibility that he could return it for a touchdown. I remember playing in Chicago in 2010 in a snowstorm. It is a total whiteout, and some of the cuts that he made, I don't think guys could make in a perfect condition, on a perfect field, with everything just totally lined up for them. He was able to do things that I really haven't seen anybody do in 16 years, and I'm glad he's retired now. I hope he's enjoying retirement, and glad we don't have to cover against him anymore.
Copy. Appreciate the question, Kyle. Jumping into the chat, Gabrielle asking, what's the training, Matthew, that you hate the most? Is there a type of conditioning, early season, mid-season, end of season, a specific type of training, something that just, I got to do this again?
That's a great question. So we have this thing called bout runs. And what it is for us is just 3 minutes of consistent running. We cover as much ground as we can up and down the field. And we do 3 sets of that. So 3 minutes, 3 minutes off, 3 minutes, 3 minutes off, 3 minutes, 3 minutes off. And that doesn't sound very hard to my distance runners, but as someone who is strictly a sprinter and hates running distance, every Thursday in the off season when we have those bout runs, I don't sleep well the night before because I know this is going to be a struggle. It's something that I don't enjoy, but it's a necessary evil. Obviously, it helps so much with our conditioning and our cardio base, but it's something I certainly don't enjoy at all.
But it's a necessary evil of what you need to do out there. I saw Patrick in the chat as well. Basically, going back to a little bit of what we were starting to talk about, but I'd love to dive a bit deeper here. When you first came on, talked a little bit about connecting with and mentoring and being that elder statesman, that leader out there. Patrick, we're wondering, what are some of your best strategies of connecting with those from a younger generation, a younger group, communicating effectively with them so that message gets heard? And this is probably football related, life related, definitely business related as well.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it's all about relationships. You talk about leading people and trying to get them to pursue a common goal with you. You can't do that if they don't know that you're relationally invested in them. And for me, my leadership style has always been through human to human connection. Like, I want to know about you. I want to know about who you are off the football field. I want to know about your why. I want to better understand how you were brought up, the things that you like to do outside of football, your family background, all those things I try to, download into my hard drive and incorporate in my leadership style. Because I think in this business, especially, it's very production driven. And sometimes we forget the people behind the face mask and their stories. And, everyone has such a unique journey. No two journeys are the same. And I believe that everyone's journey should be acknowledged and appreciated. And in my experience, when you do that, you're really able to connect with almost anyone. And then when it comes time for you to ask them to do something, or when it comes time for you to instill a principle, they're more receptive. And then, you mentioned the younger generation. A lot of times what we make the mistake of as the elder generation is we don't listen. We don't do a good job of listening to what their experience may be, what their opinion may be, because we think we know better a lot of times. And I know I'm guilty of that at times. Well, back in my day, we did this, or when we won Super Bowls, we did this. Instead of maybe, hey, maybe this young guy has an experience that I haven't had that can help benefit the team. So trying to listen and actively listen, I think has been really useful for me as I've gotten older in the league, and it's helped me continue to be able to stay in touch with those younger players.
You mentioned getting to know people, family. Can you and I talk about you and your dad for a moment?
Absolutely.
All right. For those that don't know, I hope you know, but Jackie Slater, 20 years, his entire career with the Rams. I read something. I want you to confirm if this is true or not. Read that he got into coaching a little baseball as a way to direct you away from football. Is that true? Can you explain a little bit about how that played out?
That is absolutely true. Coming up in Southern California, my dad wanted my brother and I to stay as far away from football as possible. And there were a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, he didn't want us to feel the pressure of having to walk in his footsteps. Obviously, having such an accomplished career, there are expectations that people had of my brother and I when we started playing football that were probably a little bit unfair. And then the other thing was just he knew and knows how hard the game is on you physically. And he always said, I did this so that you didn't have to. So he did everything in his power to steer us away from playing football. Like you said, he coached baseball. And the running joke is he never played a down of baseball in his life, but he was coaching baseball. So he was coaching baseball. He was coaching track and field. He was even out there on the soccer field, hooting and hollering, just doing anything he could to redirect us from football. But what he could not overcome was that he had two sons that looked up to their father, and whatever he did, we wanted to do. So if my dad had been in business, I wouldn't have wanted to do football. I would have wanted to be in business. If my dad had been in medicine, if he had been a school teacher, if he had been a public official, that's what I would have wanted to do because of the relationship that I had with him and because of the impact that he had on my brother and I as young people.
2001, he went into the Hall of Fame. Does he ever pull the jacket out on like Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, Father's Day, puts it on the jacket and make sure you guys see that?
He's not shy about wearing that jacket whenever the opportunity presents itself. That's one of those jackets you can't buy. You have to earn that one. And he sure as heck earned it. And, we're so proud of him. And, we don't mind when he pulls it out.
That's good. That's good. Hey, how about coaching in your future youth level? I actually asked this of David Andrews, and Dave was like, man, I don't know if I would do it at the professional level. He's got the little ones at home. But he was like, professional, your coaches spend so much time. We know you guys spend time there, but the amount of time. So he was like, professional, nah, off the board, not going to do. But coaching, something that you think about doing in some manner down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably echo what David said. For me, I have 4 young kids, and I don't think my wife would want me there game planning and spending the night at the facility and things like that. But I do feel I've learned so much through the game of football, not just about football, but about life that I would love to pass on to young people. So if that meant coaching at the youth level, I have 3 sons. Maybe if they wanted to play football at some point, I would love to be able to coach them. And I just enjoy being with the kids. The game's pure at that age. It's about the love of the game. It's about having fun. And, I'd love to do that at some point in time down the road.
I've been coaching for 15 years, baseball, soccer. I'd love to know your advice right now as you sit here today, advice to parents out there with kids that are in any sport, gymnastics, swimming, taekwondo, football, advice to parents on dealing with youth sports and in a mentality maybe that we can all learn and bring to youth sports.
Yeah, the landscape of youth sports is very challenging, as you know, having been involved with it for so long. And there's so many different expectations from parents and children. And I always say this, you don't know where the sports journey is going to end or where it's going to take you. But if you're going to travel down that road, try to instill in your kids the importance of competing. I tell my kids all the time, whatever you do, I want you to work your very hardest at it. I want you to be the best version of yourself at it. Doesn't mean you have to be the best player on the team, the smartest kid in the class, whatever it may be, but I want you to maximize your God-given ability. And I would encourage parents, when they put their kids in sports, to make sure that their kids are competing. Yes, it's about fun. It's about being together with teammates. It's about all those lessons, but you have more fun when you win. You have more fun when you give your best. And then I think that carries over, right? In life, as I lead a family, as a husband and the father, I have to strive to be my best version of myself as a husband and as a dad. So I am competing in essence in life, and we all have to compete in some way, shape, or form. So I think there's a lot of carryover. But yeah, that would be my one word to the parents out there with kids in youth sports.
All right. Well, I do appreciate that. And I'd echo a lot of what you just said. You just said it very, very well. Let's do this. Patrick got a question here, and I want to play around with this for a little bit. In terms of some of your other teammates out there, do you think you're playing with anyone now that could have been a stud in another sport? Do we have any other baseball? I'll tell you a little story briefly. I grew up in San Mateo, California. I think you know a guy that went to San Mateo, came from San Mateo, California. I was at Aragon. He was at Sarah. I was a senior. He was a freshman. We heard about this Tom Brady guy as a pitcher. We weren't hearing about him as football. We were hearing about him as that baseball pitcher to watch out for in our area. And then lo and behold, he can throw football too. So who else that you're playing with currently or you've played with before that could have studded out somewhere?
Well, if you ask the guys on our team, every one of them would tell you, oh, I could have played basketball. I could have done this. I could have done that. The one guy that really impresses me is Brendan Schooler. His mom was a volleyball player, and he grew up playing volleyball, grew up playing a number of sports. But he's just one of those guys that if you ask him to do something, he's going to do it at a high level. If we're playing basketball, he's going to be dunking the basketball. If we're playing volleyball, he's going to be jumping up over the net. He's just super, super talented. So he'd be the one guy that I would say could have had success playing another sport. There are other guys on the team that did have opportunities to play basketball in college. So they're not just talking. They did have some opportunities there. So, I get a chance to work with some of the best athletes in all the world. And those guys are pretty good at a lot of things, not just football.
Yeah. Opportunity to be around sports is something that continues to expand. And in my area, we just got now high school sanctioned girls flag football. And the overwhelming response to these young ladies coming out there and trying out, and they came from all fields of play, from soccer, from softball, from basketball. There was just, and the coaches, I know a few of them, they weren't expecting it. They thought, we'll get 20, we'll field the little team. They had 80 girls come out. The appetite for football is huge there. Thoughts on flag football out there, how football continues to expand and reach so many different groups?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the fact that now our game is available to everyone because I think it's such a great game. It teaches you so many valuable lessons beyond what happens on the gridiron. But, having a daughter myself, now there's an opportunity for her without the contact to go and play football if she likes. She certainly loves the game, even at 6 years old. So I love that the popularity of the game is growing, the exposure. We're hoping to see this become an Olympic sport with women. I just think it's great, and the more people that can engage in the game, I think is a beautiful thing. Obviously, I have a clear bias, but I love to see it and hope it continues to grow.
You did bring up earlier, and some of the comments and chats in here led off with, oh, yeah, sometimes we forget that these NFL players are people too. There are a lot of other things that they do. 2020, big year for you. You've mentioned your wife once or twice here. You started and founded the Slater Family Foundation. I wanted to take a moment here and just have you give a high-level overview of what you're doing with that foundation, what you hope to accomplish.
I really appreciate you asking that. For my wife and I, we feel as though we've been very blessed. And with that, we feel like we have a huge responsibility to not just take those blessings and keep them to ourselves, but to really pass them along. We've been given such a unique platform through the NFL, and we want to use that to impact the people around us, to hopefully elevate them, empower them, bring them hope, bring them resources, whatever it is that they're lacking in some way, shape, or form. We try to meet that need. So our family foundation has been really active in Providence, Rhode Island. My wife attended school down in Providence. We met and dated in Providence. So we really have a heart for the people of Providence. And there are a number of needs down there. There are underfunded and under-resourced schools. There's a great deal of gun violence going on. There are people that are hungry and can't meet the basic needs there. So really what we're doing is partnering with nonprofits that already exist down there, or partnering with schools, or partnering with pastors in the community, and just trying to meet people where they are. That's going to look a little bit different case by case, but we're so thrilled about the work that we're able to be doing there. And we hope to continue it beyond my playing days. Our plan is to stay here in New England once I retire, and we feel a sense of strong connection to the community, and we hope to continue that work through our foundation.
Okay, so that means you're going to continue to buy those warm weather clothes.
Yes, I am. I those winter coats will keep rolling in.
Couple beanies too.
Yeah, exactly. If you
Right.
see the head, I got to have a beanie on this.
Little trivia. I want you to play a game with me real quick here. What number, in terms of seconds, did Mr. David Andrews put up in his pre-NFL workout 40-yard dash? What was his number?
I'm going to say 5.1.
5:12.
Oh, look at that. I didn't look that up.
No, I didn't give him a chance to look that up. You could have done a quick Google and check it, but I didn't. Yeah, spot on with that. Do you think he could still run that?
I think he could. I think he might need a good warm up, a little massage beforehand, but I think he could.
You talked about competition a little bit earlier. Do you guys have an opportunity sometimes to relieve some of the pressure and steam and just line up against each other, and you challenge some of these guys to a race? What are some ways that you bring some levity, especially again in times where things might not be achieving the outcomes you're looking for? How do you keep that levity there and keep some perspective that it is a game? We're blessed to have the athleticism we have. We're out here hanging with our boys all day, all week long, all season long. How do you keep that? And what are some things you guys do for that levity and that fun?
That is a great question. And it's obviously something that's been really, really relevant this year. For us, we're always competing. In the locker room, we have cornhole. So guys are lining up and throwing the cornhole bags. We have a basketball hoop in the weight room. We're always playing pig or horse in there. We let the younger guys race. They can race. When you get my age, you're like, all right, you guys go do that.
Save it for the field.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we do a lot of things together that encourage kind of that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that encourage good, healthy competition and keep us together. And certainly with a year like this one, that's very important, that we stay together, that we stay united, that we stay focused on our goal like we talked about at the beginning of this. And I think any way we can do any creative ways we can come up with to kind of promote that togetherness is something we try to do.
Is that something as a team captain? Is that something you do collectively as captains and come together? Have you had a captains only meeting recently and say, hey guys, this is outside of what the coaches are doing for us to technically game plan and all that. This is how we have to keep the people together, our family together, our brothers together. Do you work collectively as captains to do that?
Yeah. Some of that is spontaneous and just kind of happens on the spot. But I think a lot of that is very intentional. And you mentioned the captain's only meeting. We have those weekly where the captains meet with Coach Belichick and we discuss things on and off the football field. And I think there's a lot of intentionality in terms of what we need to be doing to keep the team united, to keep the team motivated, and to keep the team moving forward in a positive way. So it does take some intentionality. I think we have a great group of guys that do a great job of leading well, and hopefully that starts, in our case, it starts to lead to some good results.
Intentionality, having a plan. I'll go back to some comments Anthony was talking about when we were talking about disaster recovery and all that. So you have to have a plan. You can't just wing it when you're trying to protect corporate information these days. It used to be an afterthought. It's actually something we'll talk and bring up to Anthony a bit later on. But disaster recovery, protecting things used to kind of be afterthought. And now it almost leads every single technology conversation. You have to have that mindset. Do you have some strategies that you might be able to share with us? For some team members, they are so focused and they just do the thing that they're told, where you have to have some creativity. You have to have the ability to, okay, this was the plan, but now things have changed and we have to adjust to that. Do you have tricks and tips that you try to use when you come across someone who might be too laser focused and they need to loosen up a bit so they can be creative and maybe then be more productive?
Yeah, another great question. I think for us, we oftentimes see this with younger players. When you come into our meeting rooms, you're just being pounded with information. It's like drinking from a fire hose. We want you to do this. We want you to key on this. We want you to read this. We want you to make that adjustment. And they start to play in a very robotic style. It's just everything's very robotic. They're not thinking outside the box. They're just, I was told to do this. I need to do this. And that takes away from what makes guys special. These guys got to this level because they have special and unique ability. So for me, that usually just starts with a conversation. Hey, man, I will literally say, you don't need to be a robot. Use what God gave you. And if you see something on the field, you need to trust that. So I think the biggest thing in getting over that hump is getting guys to feel comfortable. That's why sometimes for us, for our unit, we do a players only meeting on Saturday where, okay, we've had a ton of meeting time with the coaches and getting game plan, but ultimately it boils down to these couple of things. And if we're able to do these couple of things within our own gifts and skill sets, we'll be fine. So just encouraging guys not to be robots out there, to be themselves, to play with freedom and creativity. I just think that goes back to just the relationship and being able to have that dialogue and conversation with guys.
We're going to look to wrap things up. I got one last question for you. I asked you about Pops and the jacket. You got 3 pieces of jewelry for your hands. Where are those on a regular basis? Do they come out if you have guys over for a little poker game, or if you're going out for a bike ride or a jog? Do you sometimes slip them on just to, enjoy having them with you?
Well, I'll tell you, those things are obnoxiously large. They're so big, which I love. But my wife has those in a safe deposit box. They only come out for special occasions, but obviously for me, that's why you play the game. To have the ultimate team success, to win a Super Bowl, it's very, very hard to do. Not very many players are able to win one. And the fact that I've played in 5 and won 3 is something I'm very proud of, to be able to say I was a part of those teams. And maybe there'll be a time later in life when I go to the grocery store and I happen to have all 3 of them on. I don't know. I can't make any promises. We'll see how that goes.
We appreciate you. I think on behalf of everyone here, not only being on here as a football player, but being on here is just a really cool human. Really appreciate the kindness that you shared about your family and being able to discuss that and share with all of us. Really give us some of those insights as well. This was a special conversation, so I really appreciate it, Matthew. Thanks for taking time and joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, James. Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Well, I hope you folks enjoyed that conversation as well with Matthew. I want to bring Kyle and Anthony back on board. I'm going to ask both you guys to get unmuted there. And one of the things I want to just get a little comment from each one of you, and Anthony, maybe I'll start with you, because as I talked to Matthew and asked about that flexibility, that's one of the things that a lot of organizations in the business world these days, they're looking for that flexibility. They don't want to just be told this is the one and only way, because we know that there's not one and only way we get attacked, one and only way that the ransomware comes through, any of those types of things. So that flexibility, is that something that you also spend a lot of time talking to your customers about in terms of their approach to and their strategy for disaster recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it goes back to that sort of defense in depth conversation. A lot of businesses, to your point that you mentioned earlier, when they're thinking about disaster recovery, it's sort of a second thought. Well, today it's pretty apparent that it has to be higher priority for a lot of C-level executives. So kind of you got to work with what you got within the realm of, pretty much what your skill sets are, and go from there. But it's very important to be flexible in terms of what you use and how you use it, and making sure that what you do use does play nicely together with things, because again, it's about working together to provide that layer of defense.
And Kyle, I know that I want your comments there, and I also know of the WEI team, a flexible team, a creative team. You showed that slide earlier with all those engineering certifications, and those are the folks these days that are really getting to drive some of these technologies, understand their full abilities, and then share that with customers. Because you and I both know, you get out and talk to a customer, IT director, sometimes they're so buried with that day-to-day work, they don't get to get their head up and see what's going on. So having those engineering resources at a WEI that has been test driving and putting technologies like GreenLake and everything that Zerto brings to bear, through the paces, they can really share with those customers what's going on there. So flexibility. A couple comments there, Kyle.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, not only are we, as I mentioned, we can be flexible from a multi-OEM perspective, and flexible, not a lot of red tape. We don't like to say no very often, but to your point, I'd say, people will probably be surprised behind the scenes of how many vendors and solutions that we're vetting that never really make it into our portfolio of what we like to offer to our customers. So as we're very engineering led, and that's where our experts are, they're really the ones who are deciding, oh, this is a good solution, we want to offer it. So obviously with our partnership with HPE and Zerto, that's fully vetted by our engineering team, and that's something that we're confident to put in front of our customers. So
well, I appreciate both you guys being here. Again, our thanks to Matthew Slater for being on board. Folks, WEI.com for more information. Really do hope you enjoyed this event. Again, at the end of this event, we'll be picking someone that's going to receive a piece of signed memorabilia from aforementioned Matthew Slater. And that at the end of our series of these conversations, we have one more down the road here in a few weeks. At the end of that, we'll be drawing someone's name from all 4 of those events, and you'll receive 2 tickets to a remaining Patriots game this year. So we'll be in contact and all that. So good luck to everybody. If you are looking for further conversations with the WEI team, client executives like Kyle and the rest of his team, they're very happy to have a little lunch and learn with you. So feel free to reach out to your sales rep at any time and schedule one of those one-on-one lunches, and just stay in contact and discuss what you got going on. If you do not know who your WEI account executive is, that client team, then marketing at WEI.com, marketing at WEI.com, and send a quick email in, and they'll get you in touch with the right person that can move you forward on your upcoming projects. With that, we're going to move forward on to the rest of the day. We appreciate y'all taking time to join us here on behalf of Intel and HPE. Again, our partners in this event, everyone from WEI, thanks you for joining us, and we do look forward to talking to you all down the road.